Hey everyone, welcome back to Screen Time. I'm your host Matt, and I'm happy to introduce you to a new series called The Rewind. It's a series where we'll look at all old movies and discuss kind of the production, the reception now and back then, and just kind of like talk about it. So, the first movie we'll be looking at is Newsies. It was released in 1992, directed by Kenny Ortega. You might know him from little films like High School Musical and Descendants. He also directed a few TV like Julie and the Phantoms. Highly underrated, definitely go watch. And in the Newsies movie, we had Christian Bale and some other names like Bill Pullman and Gabriel Demon. So, you know, a mixed bag of no names and no names back then, but, you know, we now know their names. Yeah, Batman. So the film was released in 1992. It had a budget of 15 million, and in the domestic box office, only really grossed 2,819,000. So, you know, financial bomb with that one, and it was met with critical disappointment. Everyone didn't really like it back then, and no one went to see it. So they pulled it quite fast from theatres because it just wasn't making any money whatsoever. All right, so if you're unfamiliar with the plot of Newsies, get ready, strap in, because it's a doozy. So the film starts off with kind of an Annie-esque, Annie reminiscent musical number where the boys are at a home. Home for boys, if you will. And sings about how hard their life is, but unlike Annie, these men actually just like have jobs. They're children, but they have jobs. So they sing about how hard their life is and whatnot, which ends with them going and selling newspapers. This is where we meet our co-lead, David. So Jack Kelly is our main guy. He's the guy that we're rooting for throughout the whole movie. He's played by Christian Bale. And our co-lead, or romantic lead if you ask me, is played by David. And his character's name is David. So David Muscow played David, and this is where we meet and find out that he has a family. He's working because his father got ill or injured himself. Doesn't really matter which one. And Jack shows tricks of the trade to sell more papers and get more money. We have a few musical numbers, we have a few longing gazes, and yeah, it was a pretty good time. So they start selling papers, and the little kid sells a paper by betting an elder man that he can't drink alcohol. The police find out, they chase Jack and David and the younger brother around the city, and their final stop is a bar, like a nightclub. It's not really sad. It just has like a singer and like strip teasers. So I'm gonna say a bar with a show. And the main chick is friends with Jack, because Jack knows everyone, as you do in these kind of films. And they let them stay and watch her kind of strip tease to the elder man. So yeah, very interesting choices there, Disney. So after the striptease or whatever that was, singing number, they go out and smoke a cigarette. So very child friendly. And this is where we kind of learn about Jack's past. He has no family, no friends, and he just kind of wants to get out of there. And you know, no true love story is complete without a balcony scene. So there's some longing gazes, there's some looks, there's some, you know, pats on the back, all the whole kit and caboodle between the two main leads. And yeah, not romantic, I declare otherwise. So that moves us on to the next number, Santa Fe. Batman's solo performance in a desolate town with what looks to be something you'd see in Universal Studio tours. So a very kind of nothing going on. There's like maybe one extra inside a cart at one stage, and then I'm guessing the same extra did a loop and was walking their dog because couldn't see their face, but their body was there. So that leads us to the morning, which we find out the big newspaper has cut all the prices on the wholesale cost or price of newspaper, and all the Newsies are mad. They're rioting in the streets, and they have decided to become a union, which leads us into probably the worst song I've heard about making a union in the longest time. And this music number is probably the most evident on where the choreography, the cinematography, and just the whole kind of how it all comes together is just very flat. Nothing goes on. The camera is always 8 miles away from what's actually happening. If you go, even with Kenny Ortega's later work, like High School Musical 3, Descendants, the camera is very in the moment. Not really with this, not like, there are moments in High School Musical 3 where it's back away, but that's because it's a stage production. Of course it's going to be there. But there's always other things throughout, like that rooftop scene where, what the fuck is her name? Gabriella and Troy are like in gardens. The camera's like, woo! And they're all like spinning and stuff. We're in it. Because that's what film can do. The film can transport us inside the musical number. In this movie, Newsies 1992, the camera is, whoa! Fucking need those binoculars to see what's going on. It's always bird eye view or very front on. Kind of like how you're looking at me. It's very flat. Very, very two-dimensional. The camera, like when the Newsies are spinning around and dancing, we could have had, the camera swooping in, a lift, the camera goes under, and then like through. It's literally a town. Why is the Newsies dancing in 3 lines, like a stage production, like there's a stage in an actual town? It doesn't make any actual sense. Use your set, effectively, if you're going to make this vast, massive set for this town, then use it. It's not that hard. And then once we go into that, they go on strike. They meet a newspaper kind of writer. He kind of gets them into shape, tells them what they need, and then they go on a little montage road trip to recruit all the other Newsies. It wasn't successful. They come back the next day and cause brawls. There's brawls on brawls on brawls. And then there's just a lot of fighting in this movie. A lot of fighting goes on. If you're not with them, you're fighting them. And if you're not fighting them, you're not on screen. You're, three screens back, scenes back. It's just a bit, a lot of fighting and not a lot of storytelling. So we love that for us. Eventually, all the Newsies do come together after a few brawls, maybe 2, I would say. And this kind of gets the big paper aware of their situation, but it does get them on a competing newspaper. Not on the front page, but somewhere. And which leads them to have a rally inside the strip club, maybe bar. I'm going to call it a bar. Leads them to have a rally inside the bar, which big newspaper finds out, and big newspaper is not happy. So big newspaper goes and breaks it up. And there's another fight. Awesome. We love that. They get incarcerated. They go to prison. They're trialed. They have to do like, what's it called? Community service, or spend $5. If I transported back to the 1800s with the current money I have right now, I'd be as wealthy as that man sitting in that chair at Big Paper, at Evil Corp. Anyways, so they go to jail. He gets fined $5 or community service, kind of all of them except the disabled one because he gets fridged pretty early on. That's a whole other thing. He's like inside the children's home for boys, but it's like a prison. I don't know, it's something else. And he's trying to like swoop in and get less time and be nice to the person in charge. It's a whole thing. It's pointless. Nothing happens. Anyways, he decides to stay in there too. Whatever, not my decision. Jack then gets an offer to save his friends and go to the dark side. So he starts working for evil paper and he wears a suit and he lives inside the building now. That doesn't take too long for him to switch back. He sees people fighting, he fights in, he loses his job, but not really because Big Money didn't find out. The only way Big Money found out was at the very end, but I'll get to that. So then he goes to the newspaper writer who's writing away. He's like, did you mean what you said about what you wrote in the newspaper about us? And he's like, yeah. And so they decide to write a newspaper themselves about what's going on with the kids in the homes and stuff like that. And the newspaper company shushing everyone when they don't agree. So that comes out, again, a very flat musical number. Could have been really cool with like following a piece of paper floating through the air because that's how they got it out. They chucked it. So follow it. Don't show me a brick wall of people sitting on it and sliding across. Not entertaining. Okay. And then that comes out and Big Paper's like, oh no, what is going on? So they finally get to talk to Big Paper, Jack Kelly and David, all whilst, you know, their romantic subplot is going on and the other romantic subplot between Jack and David's sister, which is a whole other thing. It's not important because if they're not in game, Jack and Kelly are in game because that is just a waste of my time. They finally get to talk to Big Paper. Big Paper's like, ew. And then the evil corp guy has like a sensory overload when we open a window. So who said autistic people weren't around in the 1800s is lying to you. And so in the end, the police come, arrest him, let the kids out, put the guy who was running the kid show in the van. And that's how it ends, with another musical number. All in all, a pretty kind of flat, energyless musical. It has the potential to be a really good musical, but framing, cinematography, and some of the songs, how they were written, were not it. So after the film's release in 1992, it was met with critical acclaim, as I hinted at in the beginning of the video. It wasn't very well received. Later on, as you know, I've found it, other people have found it. It's actually, there's a cult following for it, which has been helped by the Broadway musical that was released in 2012 and won many Tony Awards, or whatever the award is called, for musicals, and was a raging success, which helped. I haven't seen the musical because sadly I'm in Australia, but I can always watch the one recorded on Disney+. So if you've seen that, let me know. I'll watch it if it's good, but I rather not watch recorded shows because I'd just rather see it live and it's kind of like spoiling it for me, but I don't think it's ever coming, so I'm probably in the clear with that one. So all in all, it's average. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just kind of existing in its own area. And there are certain things like cinematography, sound, music that could have made it be really well done. But unfortunately, it just didn't hit the mark in a lot of departments and it was so slow. A lot of the romantic stuff didn't work, and the romantic stuff that did work was between two guys and it wasn't intentional. So, you know, just a bit of a snooze fest, if you ask me, but still a good watch if you're into like musicals and musical theater, that kind of thing. It's still fun. It's just nothing incredible. So yeah, that is my first episode of The Rewind with Newsies 1992. If you enjoyed, leave a like, hit subscribe, share, do all those good things. And I'll see you next time. Bye.